What if the sky, our oldest map, our oldest comfort, is lying to us? For generations, we have looked up in search of answers, of constants. But tonight, on a rugged desert plateau, one man finds only a gnawing unease. Beneath a vastness that bursts with countless stars, his polished telescope, a marvel of modern precision, whispers a warning of a catastrophe that defies every known calculation. In the cold, bluish light, the heavens themselves seem to lean closer, not with revelation, but with a threat drenched in eerie shadows and a chilling, silent dread. This warning, however, is not new. It's a memory we have chosen to forget. Half a world away, an archaeologist kneels in a desolate dig site, his weathered hands brushing dust from a dark messenger, a meteorite fragment that has waited for millennia. His jaw is clenched, not just with determination, but with the dawning horror that humanity may be unearthing a forbidden truth. Beside him, a cracked leather journal filled with sketches of celestial symbols rests next to a dimly glowing scanner, the ancient and the modern converging on the same terrible secret. The warm amber torchlight of the excavation pit feels like a fragile shield against the immense black shadows, a reverence for a memory etched in stone and silence. The memory is older still, deeper. It lives in our bones. Deep inside a cave chamber, a tribal elder's trembling hands hold a charred bone carving, its surface etched with primitive star patterns that tell not of wonder, but of fear. His sharp, fire-lit eyes reflect a story painted on the cavern walls in ochre, a terrifying mural of fiery streaks and tumbling rocks falling from the heavens. As smoke from glowing embers curls into the flickering red and orange light, it feels as though ancient voices murmur from the moving silhouettes, whispering warnings of a cosmic fire destined to return. And today, those whispers have become a roar of data. In a dim control room, a scientist, his face a mask of exhaustion, leans toward his glowing screens. His unkempt hair and furrowed brow tell a story of sleepless nights spent wrestling with a truth he no longer wants to believe. His hands, faintly trembling, rest on a keyboard surrounded by scattered printouts and abandoned coffee cups, the debris of a losing battle. On the monitors, simulation models display asteroid trajectories, with angry red vectors pulsing across a digital Earth. The icy blue light of the screens, punctuated by sporadic red warning flashes, carves deep shadows across his features, mirroring the crumbling certainty of a reality once thought unshakable, now dissolving under the relentless weight of numbers. The burden of this knowledge is a profound isolation. In a vast, empty auditorium, a lecturer stands silhouetted against a massive projection of a tumbling asteroid crossing Earth's orbit. His posture is strong, his gestures sweeping, the veins on his neck tense with the conviction of his terrifying message. A glowing laser pointer traces a red arc across the screen, a line of cold, mathematical prophecy drawn across a backdrop of dust motes dancing in the stark white light. The rows of vacant chairs fading into darkness amplify the chilling atmosphere of forewarning, as if he is speaking a truth, born not of myth but of cold inevitability, to a world that is not yet ready to listen. This attempt to commune with the inevitable echoes across cultures and millennia. Atop a stepped stone temple, a priestess figure raises her trembling arms to the twilight sky, veins visible along her thin wrists. Dressed in frayed, ritual garments, she clutches a bronze astrolabe, its ancient symbols glinting in the firelight as if to translate the sky's intent. Surrounded by kneeling villagers on ancient ceremonial ground, her silhouette is cast larger than life by the shifting light of torches and the moon. The air radiates a fragile balance between devotion and terror, as if the heavens themselves might answer her cries not with wisdom, but with fire. The same answer is sought in the quiet halls of history. In a candlelit library walled with stone, a scholar sits among stacks of ancient manuscripts, his weathered fingers tracing star maps inked with fading pigments. His narrow face is a portrait of exhaustion, his lips murmuring forgotten names as a magnifying glass embedded with glowing sensors reflects cosmic diagrams across its surface. In this sanctuary of arched ceilings and drifting dust motes, There is a palpable sense that the secrets locked away in parchment could change the course of human destiny, a mystery fueled by intellectual fervor and the warm, flickering flames of candlelight. But some truths are not found in books or data streams. They are felt. On a windswept plateau, under a sky streaked with meteors, a shamanic figure stands at the edge of a roaring bonfire, his eyes blazing with a trance-like intensity. He grips a staff embedded with glimmering meteorite shards, talismans of bone and hide swaying with his every movement. Here, in the harsh, alternating light of the orange fire and the cool flashes from above, the atmosphere is primal and haunting. It is a raw, vibrating reverence for a universe that is both creator and destroyer, a truth felt deep in the gut. So what is this truth? This revelation that haunts our science, our myths, and our oldest fears. My face emerges from the darkness, the words I must speak held back, my lips tight with the weight of prophecy. The faint reflection of a tumbling asteroid, a ghost of orbital data, plays across my pupils. This isn't a story of what might be. It's a story of what has been and what will be again. Out in the fierce desert wind, a field reporter stands against the backdrop of a vast, ancient impact crater, the very ground a testament to a disaster too immense to forget. His microphone is gripped tight, his eyes shifting uneasily from the camera to the horizon, a grim line etched on his face. The harsh midday sun bleaches the fractured, scorched earth, radiating an urgency that trembles in the very air, a vulnerability before a power that has scarred our world before. The proof is beneath his feet, and it is buried everywhere. In a humid jungle clearing, a paleontologist stands in awe and fatalism, gesturing with a hammer toward an exposed rock layer. Scattered at his feet are the fossilized bones of giant creatures, half-buried reminders that entire worlds, entire species, can be extinguished with a single, indifferent cosmic strike. The golden sun dapples across the bones, illuminating a history of annihilation, a warning that has been waiting for us to find it all along. The evidence isn't just in the bones of the dead. It's written in the very grammar of our planet, a language of violence we are only now learning to read. In the deep quiet of a barren canyon, a geologist kneels at a fractured cliff face. He is a reader of stone, his eyes tracing a story not of slow erosion, but of instantaneous, cosmic brutality. In his hands, he holds a chunk of shocked quartz, its crystalline structure forever deformed, captured in a silent scream from a pressure so immense it could only have been born in the heavens. This is not a rock, it is a memory of impact, he murmurs. His digital analyzer pulses with faint red readouts, modern technology confirming what the stone already knows. Our world was once struck with a fury so profound it permanently scarred its deepest foundations. From the Earth's fractured grammar, we turn to our own. Miles away, under a sunset that bleeds orange across shattered pillars, a historian stands alone in the ruins of a desert city. His hands clutch a rolled parchment of ancient sky charts, fragile truths held tight against the eroding winds of time. This was a civilization that believed its walls were eternal, yet now it is nothing but sand and whispers. It is a dialogue between human ambition and cosmic indifference, a reminder that our greatest empires are but fleeting echoes in a cathedral of silence. What is history to a universe that does not measure time in reigns or dynasties? On a windswept plateau, a philosopher sits in contemplation, his eyes closed not in prayer, but in communion with the vast, silent indifference of the universe itself. He finds a strange and profound peace in the sheer scale of it all, the realization that the cosmos is not hostile, but simply ambivalent. Our fears, our hopes, our impending doom, they are events of immense significance only to us. In its brutal honesty, there is a kind of liberation. But acceptance is a luxury the human mind rarely affords itself. While one man finds peace, another wages war with numbers. In a cluttered office, a mathematician stands before a chalkboard, a storm of frantic equations swirling around him. This is not a place of quiet contemplation. It is a battlefield. His eyes dart across the numbers, searching for an error, a loophole that could rewrite their terrible conclusion. Each equation is a prayer for certainty, Yet each new calculation only seems to reinforce the architecture of doom. He is wrestling with the idea that some problems might not have a solution. And while some fought with numbers, others prepared to fight in the void itself. On a barren volcanic plain, an astronaut stands in a worn spacesuit, his helmet lifted. He is a symbol of our audacious refusal to remain earthbound. Yet, standing on this endless stretch of basalt rock, his sophisticated technology feels like a child's toy in the face of the celestial order. This is the great paradox of our species. Our breathtaking bravery set against our profound vulnerability. That grand, lonely gesture is born in the quiet precision of a human hand. In a sterile lab, an engineer holds a small, metallic sphere humming with a faint blue light. It is the distilled essence of our ingenuity, a prayer made of metal and light. A technological hope that the same minds that calculated our doom can also forge our salvation. But for every prayer of hope, a curse of frustration is muttered. A female scientist paces under the watching eye of a massive telescope, fists clenched around a stack of printouts. The numbers should be predictable, but they are not. Within the cold, clean data, she sees a ghost, a chaos masquerading as physics. The object they are tracking tumbles and shifts, defying the very laws she has dedicated her life to understanding. The dawning horror is that they are not facing a simple rock, but a chaotic variable, a secret too terrifying to fully voice. This new, quantified fear is the oldest story we know. In a dim stone chamber, a child sits with wide, reflecting eyes, clutching a clay tablet etched with the same symbols of falling stars. Behind her, a faded tapestry depicts people fleeing in panic from a burning sky. She has not seen the data, but the fear is in her bones, an ancient memory passed down as a warning. And now, that ancient story is told to everyone at once. On a coastal cliff, a crowd of strangers stands together, their faces lit in pale, silvery light, tilted skyward in a shared vigil of awe and terror. They are bound by a collective dread, a fragile unity forged in the face of a threat that makes all other divisions meaningless. This story of humanity finds its final, timeless expression in a single figure. A lone nomadic traveler stands on shifting desert dunes, his robe whipping in the wind. He clutches a weathered staff carved with the same celestial markings seen in the caves and on the tablets. He is the historian, the philosopher, and the witness, all in one. The desert around him remembers ages when fire rained from the heavens. And as he squints against the sand, his gaze fixed on the horizon, he is a final, solitary question posed to the dust and the stars. But some truths are not found in books or data streams. They are not calculated, but felt. They resonate in a frequency older than language. On a windswept plateau, under a sky streaked with the fire of falling meteors, a shamanic figure stands at the edge of a roaring bonfire. His face, a mask of ash and sacred paint, is a canvas of primal knowledge. His eyes, blazing with an intensity that seems to burn from within, are not merely looking at the fire but through it, as if the flames were a portal to the universe's oldest memories. He grips a staff carved from ancient wood, its surface embedded with glittering meteorite shards, not mere stones, but captured whispers of cosmic violence, humming with a silent energy against his scarred palms. Talismans of bone and hide, stitched with the reverence of generations, sway from his form, dancing in the harsh, alternating light of the orange bonfire and the cool, electric flashes from the heavens above. The atmosphere here is not one of scientific inquiry, but of raw, vibrating reverence. It is a haunting, primal truth felt deep in the gut. The universe is both the creator that seeded our world with water and life, and the destroyer that promises to scour it clean with indiscriminate fire. So what is this truth, this revelation that haunts our science, our myths, and our oldest, deepest fears? My face emerges from the deep darkness of a studio, my lips pressed tight, holding back the weight of words that feel like prophecy. The faint, translucent projection of a tumbling asteroid is reflected in my pupils, a ghost of orbital data playing across a human eye. This studio, filled with the quiet hum of equipment and the faint scent of ozone, becomes a confessional, and the camera lends an unblinking eye demanding the terrible truth. The weight of this knowledge is a physical burden, a pressure behind the eyes, a tightness in the throat. Because this isn't a story of what might be. It's not a sterile probability or a distant threat. It's a story of what has been, written in the scars of our own planet, and what is destined, by the cold, impartial laws of physics, to be again. The proof is not a theory. It is a wound in the earth itself. Out in the fierce desert wind, a field reporter stands against the staggering backdrop of a vast, ancient impact crater. Dust and sand whip around him, stinging his face, but his gaze is resolute, shifting uneasily between the camera and the immense, blasted horizon. He grips his microphone not just as a tool, but as an anchor in a place where the ground itself screams of vulnerability. The harsh midday sun bleaches the landscape, exposing every fracture, every scorched rock in the miles-wide testament to a disaster too immense to truly forget, yet one we have so easily ignored. He struggles for words, because how does language contain this? How do you describe a scar so large it can only be truly seen from the sky that delivered the blow? It is the full stop at the end of a civilization's sentence, a warning that trembles in the very air. The proof is beneath his feet, and it is buried everywhere, waiting. In a humid jungle clearing, a world away from the desert's dry testimony, a paleontologist provides the eulogy. He stands in awe and a deep, soul-crushing fatalism, gesturing with a hammer toward an exposed layer of rock. Scattered at his feet, half buried in the limestone, are the fossilized bones of giants, creatures that once owned this world, rendered into stone by a single, indifferent cosmic strike. The golden sun, dappling through the thick, living canopy, illuminates a history of total annihilation. This is the dialogue between the crater and the bone bed. One is the weapon, the other, the victim. It is the final, irrefutable word in the argument. Entire worlds, entire evolutionary dynasties, can be and have been utterly erased. The evidence isn't just in the bones of the dead. It's written in the very grammar of our planet. A geologist kneels at a fractured cliff, his goggles hiding eyes that have learned to read a story of cosmic violence etched into stone. In his hands, he holds chunks of shocked quartz, minerals transformed by a pressure so immense it could only have come from the heavens. His digital analyzer pulses with faint red readouts, modern technology confirming a brutal, ancient truth carved not by human hands, but by the indifferent fury of the cosmos. From the Earth's fractured grammar, we turn to our own. In the ruins of a desert city, a historian with silver-streaked hair stands alone, his expression strained as he clutches a rolled parchment of ancient sky charts. He studies the fall of human empires, only to realize that against the timeless backdrop of the stars, all our empires are fleeting echoes, our greatest tragedies footnotes in a much larger, more violent story. What is history to a universe that does not measure time in reigns or dynasties? On a windswept plateau, a philosopher sits in deep contemplation, communing not with gods, but with the profound indifference of the universe itself. He has seen the evidence, understood the implications, and arrived at a terrifying peace. He realizes that our existence is a fragile, accidental miracle in an ocean of chaos, and its end, however tragic to us, is cosmically insignificant. But acceptance is a luxury the human mind rarely affords itself. While one man finds peace, another wages war. In a cluttered office, a mathematician scribbles frantic equations, his eyes sharp with desperation. He is fighting the conclusion, trying to find a flaw in the logic of the cosmos, a prayer whispered in the language of pure reason. And while some fought with numbers, others prepared to fight in the void itself. An astronaut stands on a barren volcanic plain, a lone figure of fragile courage against an endless backdrop of ancient lava flows. He represents the tip of our spear, our willingness to meet the threat head-on. That grand, lonely gesture is born here, in the quiet precision of a human hand. An engineer holds a small, metallic sphere, pulsing with a faint blue light. It is the distilled essence of our ingenuity, a fragile, optimistic hope that the same species that fears the darkness can also build a light bright enough to hold it back. The uneasy truce between prayer and proof becomes the default state of a world holding its collective breath. Science, for all its precision, now offers calculations that feel like curses, while faith, for all its comfort, offers psalms to a sky that appears deaf. This quiet tension, born in the hushed nave of a cathedral, now radiates outward, becoming the silent, humming backdrop to every life on Earth. It is a global cognitive dissonance, a species forced to stare at its own mortality with one eye, while searching for a non-existent exit with the other. This new reality first manifests not in policy or panic, but in quiet, communal vigils. On open hilltops, far from the glare of dying cities, silhouettes of people stand motionless, their faces upturned in a shared, trembling awe. The night sky, once a map for navigation and a canvas for myths, has become a grand and terrifying stage, igniting with the cold, silent fire of streaking meteors. Each fiery trail is a punctuation mark in a cosmic sentence they cannot read but can deeply feel. The performance is utterly indifferent to the small, fragile human figures frozen beneath it, their hands unconsciously clutching those of strangers. Here, fear is no longer an abstraction discussed on news channels. It is a visceral, reflected reality. It is a fiery trail captured in the dilated pupil of a single, unblinking eye, the entire cosmic drama of creation and destruction playing out in that tiny, terrified sphere. It is the silent, claustrophobic testimony to an inevitability that has already arrived in the sky and now takes root behind every human gaze. To name a thing is to grant it power, but it is also the first desperate step toward understanding it. In a sun-baked Egyptian excavation site, under a sky of blinding white heat, an Egyptologist carefully, reverently, brushes away the dust of 4 millennia. His lined face glistens with sweat, his eyes wide not just with the thrill of discovery, but with a mixture of profound reverence and a deep, gnawing unease. The stone relief he is uncovering depicts a monstrous, coiled serpent devouring the stars, a perfect, mythological representation of cosmic chaos, a nightmare carved in sandstone. It is a fear that has slept in this tomb for ages, waiting. As his trembling hands trace the serpent's fangs, his digital scanner glows with the ghost of a dead language, translating the name of this great devourer, Apophis. The name, once a forgotten legend, now feels like an incantation of dread, slipping silently from the desert's ancient heart into the modern halls of knowledge. This rediscovery is not isolated. In a hushed, climate-controlled museum a continent away, a curator stands before a glass case, the silence of the marble hall as profound as the desert's. His sharp eyes, reflecting the focused spotlight, trace the faded ink of an ancient papyrus scroll that shows the same great serpent crossing the heavens. The ink is a ghost on parchment, a whisper that has survived the fall of empires, carrying the same terrible warning. The forgotten prophecy, unearthed in both the blistering field and the sterile archive, has found its moment. And with a name comes a new, focused, and quantifiable terror. High-security research facilities that once hummed with quiet discovery now buzz with a frantic, desperate urgency. Teams of scientists, their faces pale and illuminated in the cold blue light of digital tables, huddle together like modern priests interpreting a new and terrifying set of omens. Their hands, trembling with a mixture of fatigue and adrenaline, point at the shifting red arcs of live data feeding in from a global network of observatories. They are no longer tracking a nameless dread, a statistical ghost. They are tracking Apophis. The intellectual dread in the room is palpable. It is the chilling, humbling realization that all their satellites, their supercomputers, and their centuries of accumulated knowledge have only given them a more precise way of naming the very same terror that haunted the temples of ancient Egypt. This pressure fractures the team and falls upon the individual. In a cluttered, darkened workspace littered with the debris of sleepless nights, a programmer stares at the cascading lines of code on her laptop. Her eyes reflect the endless, scrolling streams of crimson warnings, each one a digital scream of failure. Beside her, a small holographic display projects Apophis's chaotic, tumbling spin, but the image glitches and distorts, refusing to resolve into a predictable model. For her, the truth is not a solid thing. It flickers and dissolves beneath the relentless, hammering waves of unstable data. The numbers are no longer a tool for control. They are the very language of chaos, and the universe seems to be fighting back, refusing to be tamed, refusing to be solved. Amid this technological and intellectual frenzy, as humanity tries to wrestle the monster into a cage of code, some seek a different kind of understanding. A lone pilgrim, his face weathered by wind and sun, walks along a high mountain ridge at twilight. The air is thin and cold, the world below a sea of purple shadows. His eyes are lifted skyward not in fear, but in a state of silent, serene contemplation. For him, the approaching fire, the crimson star of Apophis growing brighter in the dusk, is less a threat than a profound reminder of humanity's infinitesimally fragile place beneath an eternal, beautiful, and utterly indifferent sky. It is a moment of solemn beauty and profound humility, an acceptance of the grandeur of the fire. But in the quiet, humming observatories, where the fate of the world is being measured, that philosophical humility gives way to a tense, biting precision anxiety. A technician, his eyes keen but rimmed with the dark circles of exhaustion, makes a minute adjustment to a rack of cryo-cooled sensors. Every movement of his ink-stained fingers is calibrated, deliberate, and imbued with an almost holy sense of purpose. Here, in the soft, oceanic glow of dim blue and muted teal light from the control panels, the work is sacred and terrifying. Each captured photon that strikes the sensors, arriving from the void after its long journey, becomes a syllable in a cosmic sentence. He is a scribe, meticulously recording a message he cannot alter, and the atmosphere is poised and silent with the dreadful, anxious knowledge that the sentence he is transcribing might just end with a word that no one, anywhere, wants to read. In sterile rooms walled with concrete, the human intellect, our species' greatest pride and most fragile shield, strains against the coming turbulence. This is the cerebral front line, a war waged not with weapons, but with algorithms and sheer will. A data scientist sprawls massive blueprints and probability grids across a cold metal table, her slender hands splayed as if to physically hold back the overwhelming tide of new, terrifying evidence. She exists in a physical manifestation of a mind at its breaking point, the concrete walls layered with pinned printouts and string, a spider's web of interconnected observations and desperate theories. From a compact projector, a translucent red cone cuts through the dim light, mapping the uncertain corridors of space where our future will be decided. A corridor of dread whose margins are annotated with frantic, unforgiving timestamps. Here, certainty is a distant shoreline that is constantly being reshaped by a storm of incoming data. In another room, cleansed of all chaos, an aerospace engineer's forearms flex with sublime control as he threads a microgyroscopic module into its guidance canister. His work is a quiet, sacred murmur of fragile mastery, performed on a sterile bench where precision tools are aligned in ritualistic order. The clinical, shadowless light reveals every detail. A faint scar on his hand, the chipped fingernails from nights of relentless work, the taut tendons of a man concentrating on a task smaller than his fist that carries the weight of the entire world. This is the silent, audacious hope that human craft, in its most precise form, can gently brush against a mountain of stone hurtling through the dark and ask it, politely, to miss our only home. This hope, however, is tempered by a disciplined, almost monastic resignation. A mission planner stands before a wall of trajectory plots, his shoulders squared but visibly heavy, as if bearing an invisible mantle. For him, this quiet, stripped-down room is a dojo of calculation, a place where the profound acceptance of immutable, cosmic rules becomes the first and most critical move toward survival. He watches the living overlays on the wall, where the asteroid's thermal drift is rendered in shifting colors, making the object seem to breathe with malevolent heat. Above the main floor, on a mezzanine where whispers run like current through cables, a female flight dynamics specialist studies a countdown on her tablet. Her lip is caught between her teeth, her brow a single, focused line. The burn windows on her screen blink from a hopeful green to an anxious amber, the edges fuzzed by bands of uncertainty. The atmosphere up here is a single, planetary-held breath, a quiet so profound that time itself feels granular. Every falling grain another chance for history to fracture and shift beneath our feet. This knowledge, once confined to these pressurized labs and control rooms, now seeps into the land itself, awakening an older, more patient wisdom. A shepherd, his skin creased and tanned by a lifetime of sun, guides his small flock along a chalky hillside. His eyes, narrowed against the wind, are lifted not to data streams or digital projections, but to the familiar, unchanging constellations his ancestors also watched. There is a generational calm in his gaze, a resilience threaded with an ancient unease, as though the very earth beneath his worn boots whispers of other, long-forgotten nights when fire crossed the firmament and left new, terrible names for fear. In the heart of the city, a night runner crosses an overpass, a solitary figure moving against a silent, flowing river of headlights. He is the modern shepherd, his flock the anonymous pulse of the urban hive. On public information screens mounted to the guardrail, an orbital forecast of the approaching object replays in a hypnotic, looping silence. He is the modern individual, wrapped in resolve, staring up at the very same cold, moving point of light as the shepherd, two souls separated by centuries, but united in a shared, anxious vigil. And between these two poles of ancient calm and modern resolve, communities begin to stir. In a civic gym that smells of varnish and disinfectant, an emergency coordinator and a community leader stand over maps and supply lists, their hands hovering with a quiet, calm intensity. Here, the problem is not orbital mechanics, but water, shelter, medicine. This is the careful, unglamorous choreography of neighbors teaching one another how to stand taller together than any single column of fear could ever stand alone. Yet, back in the digital realm, a computational physicist reminds us of the fragile foundation upon which this planning rests. She tabs through endless Monte Carlo simulations, the translucent cones of possibility on her screen narrowing, widening, then splitting like river deltas, 1,000 possible futures flickering before her tired eyes. Her work is a taut bow, its potential energy humming with every calculation, the arrowhead aimed at the heart of the future, simply and terrifyingly labeled maybe. But perhaps the truest human response is found not in planning or calculation, but in a profound, shared silence. A crowd of strangers stretches across a vast salt flat, their silhouettes crisp against a glassy, shallow flood that perfectly doubles the star-dusted sky, melding heaven and earth into one. Here, there is no doctrine, no equation, only a communal hush. They are a temporary tribe, minted by shared awe, finding in their reflection the unguarded truth that fear and wonder are, and have always been, siblings. This quiet courage finds its way into the home, into the most intimate of spaces. A parent kneels beside a window in a child's quiet bedroom, a soft yet strained smile on their face. Their fingertips gently brush a constellation chart taped to the cold glass. The child holds a small red flashlight, turning the paper lines into glowing, magical pathways across the pane. This is a moment of fragile reassurance, the profound courage to say we are watching, we are preparing, we are learning, without ever promising that the universe will always be gentle. This quiet, aching dignity is a universe away from the adversarial theater of public debate, where TV panelists in chromed studios gesture sharply, and the truth is refracted through the prism of ego and ratings. The real, essential work happens elsewhere, in the pale, industrial light of massive, echoing hangars. Here, a logistics officer checks endless rows of sealed crates, the tendons along his neck corded with a disciplined urgency. A handheld scanner chirps softly, each ping a bead on a rosary of preparation. This is the practical poetry of survival. The final, honest answer to all the debate and fear is simply the act of moving weight from one side of uncertainty to the other.